The Alien Deduction by Johnson Davies. Chapter 1. The Council of Cosmic Decisiveness. The chamber of the High Council of Trexar smelled faintly of ozone, burnt paperwork, and the lingering shame of failed missions. 12 elders hovered in translucent grav chairs shaped like inverted jellyfish, their gelatinous forms pulsing with disapproval. Above them, the great dome flickered with constellations, each one a reminder of civilizations they'd studied, uplifted, or accidentally vaporized. Sarton stood in the center of the tribunal platform, clutching a charred scarecrow like a toddler with a security blanket. His boots were still smoldering, his tunic bore the unmistakable scorch marks of a wheat fire, and his expression, wide-eyed, hopeful, and utterly clueless, was the stuff of intergalactic HR nightmares. Elder Pernack, whose voice sounded like a blender full of gravel and existential dread, leaned forward. "Probationary Surveyor Sarton," he intoned, "you were assigned to Earth's agricultural quadrant for passive observation, not flambe." Sarton cleared his throat, which produced a sound like a kazoo being stepped on. "I was conducting cultural immersion. Earthlings communicate through symbols. I created one, a circle, in a crop. Humans call them crop circles." Elder Zorn, whose gelatinous form had hardened into a shade of furious mauve, jabbed a tentacle toward the holographic display. It showed a satellite image of a flaming field, spelling out the letters YOLO. "You incinerated 46 acres of corn, 42 of wheat, and a pumpkin patch," Zorn hissed, "and you spelled out a phrase that, according to our linguists, translates to 'you only live once.'" Sarton beamed. "A sacred earth mantra, yes? I didn't think a simple crop circle would get our message across." The council groaned in 12-part harmony. "And this," Elder Pernack gestured toward the scarecrow, whose straw head had been replaced with a half-melted jack-o'-lantern. "You reported this as a native specimen." Sarton nodded proudly. "It was standing guard. I assumed it was a tribal elder or great military leader." Elder Threx, who hadn't spoken in 600 years, muttered, "We are doomed." A long silence followed, punctuated only by the distant hum of the council's espresso machine. Finally, Elder Pernack spoke. "You have one last chance, Sarton. One mission, one abductee. No crop circles, no scarecrows, no YOLO. If you fail," added Zarn, "you will be exiled to the Outer Rim, with the sentient mold spores. They are clingy." Sarton gulped. "Understood." "Good," Pernack said. "You will travel to Earth, alone. You will abduct a human. You will return with it for study and experimentation. And you will not, under any circumstances, set anything on fire." Sarton saluted, accidentally poking himself in the eye with the scarecrow's arm. "I will not fail you, Council. I shall bring back the finest specimen Earth has to offer." Elder Zorn sighed. "Just bring back one that's alive." As Sarton exited the chamber, the council members exchanged glances. "Do you think he'll make it?" asked Elder Threx. "No," said Pernack, "but at least Earth has it coming." Chapter 2. Cowboy in the Concrete Jungle. The Intergalacticus descended into Earth's atmosphere with all the subtlety of a flaming bowling ball. Its cloaking device, a refurbished janitorial droid, flickered erratically as the ship wedged itself between two dumpsters behind a Korean BBQ joint in Manhattan. Inside the cockpit, Sarton adjusted his hat, a 10-gallon monstrosity made of synthetic leather and misplaced confidence. His boots, adorned with decorative spurs and blinking snake eyes, clicked as he stepped onto the ship's ramp. He wore a fringed vest, a belt buckle the size of a dinner plate, and a pair of chaps that squeaked with every movement. "Perfect," he muttered, admiring his reflection in a puddle. "I blend in seamlessly." His research had been extensive, 37 hours of Earth culture, all sourced from a VHS labeled Western Roundup, Volume 1. He had memorized every line, every yeehaw, every tumbleweed. Unfortunately, the tape was dated 1972. Sarton emerged into the alley, scanning for a specimen. The air was thick with the scent of grilled meat, car exhaust, and existential despair. A rat scurried past him, wearing a slice of pizza like a cape. A mime offered him a cigarette. A man in a tutu roller-skated by singing opera. No one batted an eye. "This planet is fantastic," Sarton whispered, adjusting his hat. He wandered toward the sidewalk, where neon signs blinked in languages he hadn't studied. A billboard advertised a dating app for people who exclusively spoke in emojis. A man walked by wearing a full suit of armor and sipping bubble tea. Still, no one looked twice at the alien cowboy. Sarton ducked under the restaurant's overhang and waited. He had read that humans were drawn to mysterious figures lurking in shadows. He practiced his abduction line. "Greetings, Earthling. You are now the property of Trexar." He tried it with a southern drawl, then with a British accent, then as a whisper. None felt quite right. Hours passed. Rain began to fall. Sarton stood motionless, boots filling with water, hat dripping, ray gun holstered to his waist, ready for a fast draw. Then, finally, a group of humans stumbled out of a nearby bar, laughing and shouting. One of them, a blond-haired man with a crooked tie and a face like a confused potato, leaned against a lamppost and began humming the theme to Law and Order. Sarton's eyes widened. Specimen acquired. He stepped forward, boots clicking, hat tilted, ray gun humming softly. "Greetings, Earthling," he said. "You are now the—" "Spare change," the man slurred, reaching into his pocket. Sarton raised the ray gun. "Property of Trexar." Zap. The man collapsed like a sack of wet laundry. Sarton dragged him into the alley, humming a cowboy tune he'd learned from the VHS. He hoisted the man into the ship, strapped him to the examination chair, and activated the specimen containment field. "Mission accomplished," he said proudly. Outside, New York City continued its chaotic symphony, unaware that one of its own had just been abducted by a cowboy from outer space. Chapter 3. Max Jeter, Bachelor of the Stars. Max Jeter awoke with the grace of a man who'd lost a bar fight with his own liver. His head throbbed, his mouth tasted like pickled sardines. And his surroundings, metal walls, blinking lights, and a faint smell of burnt oysters, were definitely not his apartment. He sat up slowly, squinting at the glowing console in front of him. A chair nearby was shaped like a question mark. A screen displayed the words, "Welcome, specimen number 0001. Please remain seated. Your probing and dissection are pending." Max blinked. "Nope." He tried to stand, but his legs weren't cooperating. That's when he noticed the figure approaching, boots clicking, hat tilted, vest fringed like a curtain from a Wild West saloon. "Howdy," said the cowboy. "You are now the property of Trexar." Max stared. "Are you a rodeo clown?" "I am Sarton," the alien said proudly, "probationary surveyor of the Galactic Survey Corps. You have the honor of being my first abductee." Max rubbed his temples. "I was at Bill's bachelor party. There were tequila shots. Someone danced on a table. I think I proposed to a jukebox." Sarton nodded solemnly. "Earth rituals are fascinating." Max looked around. "Where am I?" "My ship," Sarton said. "The Intergalacticus. We are currently parked in a dark alley behind a meat-based establishment." Max squinted. "You haven't taken off yet?" "I wanted to savor the moment," Sarton said. "Also, I'm still calibrating the dissection table." Max stood up, wobbling. "Okay, no. I'm not getting dissected. I have a dentist appointment next week. Sarton raised an arm. Remain calm. You are in good hands. Max lunged toward the console, slapping buttons and pulling levers like a toddler playing whack-a-mole. Sarton shrieked and tried to intervene, but Max was already deep into panic mode. Two levers caught his eye, replicator and duplicator. Both were glowing. Both looked important. Max pulled them simultaneously. The ship shuddered, lightning crackled, a vortex opened. The scarecrow screamed, again, possibly imagined. And then, silence. Max blinked. He felt taller, scalier. He looked down and saw green bony hands. Sarton groaned from the floor, now wearing Max's rumpled suit and crooked tie. "Oh no," Max said. "I'm you." "Oh no," Sarton said. "I'm hungover." They stared at each other in horror. "You broke it. I'll have to find parts," Sarton said. After a long pause, Max said, "Okay. We fix this. You go out there and pretend to be me. Find replacement parts. I'll stay here and not touch anything." Sarton nodded. "Agreed. I will blend in flawlessly." Max pointed at the console. "Just don't tell anyone you're an alien." Sarton adjusted his tie. "I am now Max Jeter, Earthman, IRS agent, bachelor party survivor." Max collapsed into the chair. "God help us all." Sarton exited the ship, stepping into the alley with the confidence of a man who thought "yeehaw" was a formal greeting. Inside, Max stared at the console. Then he touched everything. Chapter 4. Welcome to the IRS. Sarton stood in the lobby of a towering glass building labeled Internal Revenue Service Headquarters, clutching a coffee cup he'd stolen from a passing pedestrian and wearing Max's rumpled suit like it was a ceremonial robe. His tie was knotted like a pretzel. His shoes squeaked. His expression radiated the confidence of someone who had absolutely no idea what they were doing. Beside him stood Max's girlfriend, Jenna. She looked concerned but not surprised. "You sure you're okay?" she asked. "You were pretty out of it last night." Sarton nodded solemnly. "I consumed fermented liquids and danced with a jukebox. I am recalibrating." Jenna smiled. "Classic Max." They passed through security. Sarton tried to scan his elbow instead of his badge. The guard raised an eyebrow but waved him through. Jenna whispered, "Just act normal." Sarton whispered back, "Define normal." They reached a cubicle maze that stretched into infinity. Jenna pointed to a desk piled high with documents. "This is your station. Just enter the data into the computer. Easy." Sarton sat down, stared at the papers, then at the computer. He began typing, superior alien speed fast. 10 minutes later, he was done. He turned to the man in the next cubicle. "I have completed my task. What is the next phase?" The man blinked. Coffee break?" Sarton nodded. "Excellent. I shall consume the sacred beans." In the break room, he found a pound can of coffee and began eating it with his bare hands. Employees stared. One whispered, "He must still be hungover." Another nodded, "Bachelor party." Brutal. Then came the voice. "Well, well, if it isn't Max Jeter. Back from whatever dumpster you crawled out of." Sarton turned. A man in a pinstripe suit leaned against the counter, smirking. His name tag read, "Chad Bronsky, Senior Auditor." Chad was the kind of man who wore cologne like a weapon and smiled like he'd just foreclosed on your childhood home. He sipped his espresso and sneered. "Still screwing up reports, Jeter? Or did you finally learn how to spell your own name?" Sarton tilted his head. "You are unpleasant." Chad laughed. "You're lucky I don't report you." "Again?" Sarton narrowed his eyes. You would make an excellent specimen. Chad blinked. What? Nothing, Sarton said. I must return to my cubicle and contemplate my vengeance. Back at his desk, Sarton spent the afternoon doing increasingly bizarre things. He tried to fax a banana. He asked the printer if it had feelings. He submitted a report written entirely in chimpanzee. By 5 p.m., Jenna met him in the lobby. You survived, she said. I encountered a hostile entity, Sarton replied, named Chad. He is ripe for abduction. Jenna laughed. Everyone hates Chad. Sarton nodded. Then I shall take him. Chapter 5. The Finest Cork in Town. Dinner was held at a cozy Italian restaurant in Midtown, the kind of place where the lighting was dim, the wine was overpriced, and the waiters wore bow ties with elitist snobbery. Jenna had made the reservation weeks ago, expecting a romantic evening. Instead, she was dining with a man who had eaten coffee grounds for breakfast and faxed a banana at work. Sarton, still in Max's body, sat across from her, studying the menu like it was a sacred scroll. He whispered, What is a gnocchi? Is it sentient? Jenna smiled politely. It's pasta. You like it? I do, Sarton nodded. I shall consume it with enthusiasm. The waiter arrived, uncorked a bottle of wine, and offered Max the cork to sniff. Sarton took it, examined it, then popped it into his mouth and chewed thoughtfully. Delightful, he said. I'll have another. The waiter blinked. Jenna blinked. A man at the next table whispered, He's definitely still hungover. Dinner proceeded with increasing awkwardness. Sarton asked if the breadsticks were weapons. He tried to pay with a Martian $2 bill and a coupon for laser hair removal. He complimented the waiter's primitive bipedal symmetry. Jenna, ever patient, chalked it up to bachelor party brain fog. Then Chad Bronsky walked in. He was with a date, an influencer with 300,000 followers and zero discernible personality. Chad spotted Sarton and smirked. Well, well, he said, approaching the table. Jeter, didn't expect to see you somewhere that doesn't smell like toner and failure. Sarton stood. You again? Chad leaned in. Still pretending to be a functioning adult. Sarton narrowed his eyes. You are still deeply unpleasant. Chad laughed. You're lucky I don't report you for workplace misconduct. Again. Sarton tilted his head. You would make an excellent candidate for dissection. Chad blinked. What? Nothing, Sarton said. Enjoy your meal while you still have earth-based digestion. Jenna raised an eyebrow. Max? Sarton sat back down. I am recalibrating my social protocols. As Chad walked away, Sarton whispered, He is the one. The bully. The specimen. I shall take him. Jenna sipped her wine. Honestly, I wouldn't stop you. Chapter 6. Meanwhile, in the spaceship. Max, still trapped in Sarton's reptilian body, paced the spaceship like a caffeinated crab. The Intergalacticus hummed quietly in its alley-side parking spot, cloaked in a shimmering field that occasionally flickered and revealed the ship's true form, a chrome taco with fins. Max had been told, very clearly, not to touch anything. So naturally, he touched everything. He poked a glowing orb labeled Temporal Blender. He opened a drawer full of what looked like alien dental floss and tried to braid it. He found a lever marked Emergency Beacon and thought, that probably just turns on the Wi-Fi. He pulled it. The ship shuddered. Lights flashed. A siren wailed in a tone that sounded suspiciously like a kazoo being tortured. On the console, a message appeared. Distress signal activated. Intergalactic response en route. ETA. 3 hours. Max blinked. Oh no. He tried to reverse it. He pulled the lever again. He slapped buttons. He unplugged something that looked like a glowing ferret. Nothing worked. Outside, the cloaking field flickered violently. A pigeon landed on the ship, looked around, and exploded into a poof of feathers. Max sat down, large eyes twitching. Okay, don't panic. Just wait for the cowboy to come back. Meanwhile, at IRS headquarters, Sarton was having a banner day. He had filed a report in binary, asked the copier if it had dreams, tried to pay for lunch with a holographic coin from the planet Glarn, and yet no one questioned him. The legend of Max Jeter's bachelor party hangover had spread like wildfire. People whispered reverently as he passed. One intern offered him aspirin and a hug. Then Chad Bronsky struck again. Jeter, he barked, cornering Sarton near the vending machine. You filed a Form 9Z in triplicate. That's not even a real form. Sarton blinked. You are getting more unpleasant. Chad smirked. This time I am going to you. Sarton tilted his head. You'd make a good replacement head for my scarecrow. Chad blinked. What? Nothing, Sarton said. I must return to my cubicle and contemplate my vengeance more fully. He sat down, opened Max's inbox, and found a memo labeled Employee of the Month Nomination. It was blank. Sarton filled it out. Nominee, Chad Bronsky. Reason, prime candidate for interstellar relocation. He submitted it. Then he stood, adjusted his tie, and whispered, Soon. Back on the ship, Max was watching the countdown tick toward 0. The distress beacon had summoned something. He didn't know what, but it was coming fast. He looked at the console, then at the lever labeled Replicator, then at the one labeled Duplicator. He reached out, then stopped. Nope, he said. Not again. He sat back, alien arms folded, and waited. Chapter 7. The Tube TV Solution. Sarton stood outside a pawn shop called Ray's Retro Relics and Slightly Haunted Electronics. Inside a shelf held a tube-style television the size of a small refrigerator. It buzzed faintly and smelled like burnt popcorn. This, he declared, is the key to reversing the body swap. The shopkeeper had assured him it was alien enough, and Sarton had bartered for it using a holographic coin and a promise to abduct Ray's ex-wife on his next visit. He returned to the alley where the Intergalacticus was flickering like a disco ball having a coronary. The cloaking field was failing. A crowd had gathered nearby, filming with their phones and arguing whether it was a Banksy installation or a new Taco Bell prototype. Inside, Max was pacing in Sarton's body, cowboy boots thudding on the metal floor. You're back, he shouted. I may have accidentally summoned an alien invasion. Sarton blinked. How? I pulled a lever labeled Emergency Beacon. I thought it was the Wi-Fi. Sarton groaned. That was a Class 7 distress signal. You've summoned the Trexarian Rapid Response Armada. Max pointed at the console. They'll be here in 30 minutes. Sarton dropped the tube TV onto the floor. Then we must act quickly. He began rewiring the television into the ship's console using duct tape, chewing gum, and something that looked suspiciously like a woman's bra. Sparks flew. The scarecrow caught fire again. Max screamed. Sarton screamed. The television hummed ominously. Now, Sarton said, we reverse the swap. Max hesitated. Are you sure this will work? No, Sarton said, but YOLO. He pulled the levers. Lightning crackled. The ship spun. The scarecrow exploded. Again. When the smoke cleared, Max was back in his own body, disheveled, hungover, and deeply traumatized. Sarton was once again an alien in a cowboy hat. They stared at each other. Never again, Max said. Agreed, Sarton replied. Then the console beeped. Trexarian Armada arrival. 000217. Max panicked. We have to stop them. Sarton nodded. We must present a specimen, one worthy of study, one who embodies Earth's worst traits. Max blinked. Chad. Sarton's eyes gleamed. Yes, the bully, the tormentor, the man who microwaves fish in the office, break room. Max grabbed his coat. Quick, let's go abduct Chad. Chapter 8. Reversal of Fortunes. The Trexearian armada was visible now, 40 ships shaped like angry frisbees hovering above Manhattan, cloaked in shimmering plasma and passive-aggressive judgment. Pedestrians pointed skyward, news helicopters circled. A man in Times Square tried to sell alien-themed hot dogs. Inside the Intergalacticus, Max paced nervously while Sarton calibrated the containment pod. We have one shot, Max said. If we don't deliver a specimen, they'll vaporize the city. They found Chad in the IRS parking garage, leaning against his car, a luxury sedan that smelled like ego and eucalyptus. He was scrolling through his phone, probably leaving one-star reviews on soup kitchens. Max and Sarton approached, the alien's arms tucked inside Max's trench coat, ray gun concealed in a quick draw holster. Chad Bronsky, Max said. Chad looked up. Jeter. What now? You've been selected, Sarton said, for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Chad smirked. Is this about that Employee of the Month thing? I saw the nomination. Real funny. Sarton opened the briefcase. No joke. Zap. Chad collapsed like a sack of expired kale. Back in the ship, Chad was strapped to the containment pod, snoring softly. Sarton adjusted the controls, then activated the transmission beacon. A hologram of Elder Pernak appeared, his gelatinous form pulsing with bureaucratic menace. Sarton, he said, you summoned the Armada. Explain. Sarton gestured to Chad. Specimen acquired. Earth's finest example of unchecked authority, weaponized smugness, and microwave fish crimes against the galaxy. Pernak examined Chad's vitals. Elevated ego, chronic condescension. Yes, this one will do. Max leaned in. So, Earth's safe. For now, Pernak said. But next time, no distress beacons, and no scarecrows. Sarton saluted. Understood. The hologram vanished. The Armada retreated. The sky cleared. Later that night, Max and Sarton stood on the roof of the IRS building, watching the stars. You did it, Max said. You saved Earth. I abducted a bully, Sarton replied. It felt purposeful. Max nodded. Poetic justice. Sarton looked up. Perhaps I am not a failure. Perhaps I am a natural deduction artist. Max laughed. You're still a bumbler, but today, you bumbled right. Chapter 9. The Final Deduction. The Council of Trexar reconvened in their floating jellyfish chairs, their gelatinous forms pulsing with bureaucratic anticipation. The great dome above them shimmered with stars, each one a reminder of civilizations they judged, uplifted, or accidentally turned into soup. Sarton stood before them, boots polished, cowboy hat respectfully removed, and a containment pod behind him, glowing faintly with the presence of Chad Bronsky. Elder Pernak leaned forward. Probationary Surveyor Sarton, you have returned. I have, Sarton said, with a prime specimen. Elder Zorn squinted at the pod. This one appears smug. He is, Sarton said. He microwaves fish in shared spaces. He weaponizes sarcasm. He once filed a complaint against a co-worker for breathing too loudly. The council murmured in approval. He is, Sarton continued, the embodiment of unchecked authority, petty cruelty, and corporate tyranny. I present him as Earth's ambassador of dysfunction. Elder Threx, who hadn't spoken in 6 hours, whispered, "Delicious." Pernak nodded. "You have fulfilled your mission. The threat to Earth is neutralized. You are no longer a disgrace." Sarton beamed. "Thank you, Council." Zahn raised a tentacle. "However, there is one final matter." A hologram flickered to life beside Sarton. It was the Scarecrow, charred, glowing, somehow alive. Sarton gasped. "You survived?" The Scarecrow raised a straw arm and gave a slow, deliberate thumbs up. The Council stared. Pernak cleared his throat. "We have decided to induct the Scarecrow into the Galactic Hall of Curiosities." Sarton bowed. "A fitting honor." Back on Earth, Max Jeter returned to his cubicle at IRS headquarters. His inbox was overflowing. His coffee tasted like skunk sweat. But he was alive, and no longer in an alien body. Jenna greeted him with a kiss on the cheek. "Feeling better?" Max nodded. "I had the weirdest hangover dream." She smiled. "You always do." "In the break room, someone microwaved fish." Max flinched. Chapter 10. The Final Deduction. The Intergalacticus cruised through the stars, its hull patched with duct tape, optimism, and one slightly melted scarecrow now enshrined in a glass case labeled Earth Artifact, Possibly Divine. Inside, Sarton stood before a new audience, not the High Council, but a classroom. He had been promoted, not to field agent, not to elite surveyor, but to instructor of interplanetary misconduct prevention, a role reserved for those whose failures were so spectacular they became cautionary legends. Behind him, a hologram of Chad Bronsky rotated slowly in his containment pod, still muttering about quarterly audits and synergy. Sarton gestured to the class of young alien cadets. "Lesson 1, he said. Never assume a scarecrow is sentient." The cadets nodded solemnly. "Lesson 2, if you must abduct a human, choose one who microwaves fish in shared spaces." The cadets applauded. "Lesson 3, Sarton said, adjusting his cowboy hat. When in doubt, pull the lever labeled Replicator. It might just change your life." Back on Earth, Max Jeter sat at his desk, sipping coffee that didn't taste like despair for once. Jenna had forgiven his strange behavior. His co-workers had stopped whispering, and Chad's absence had improved office morale by 300%. Max opened his inbox. One message stood out. From Sarton at trexar.gov. Subject: Deduction approved. Max, Earth is safe. Chad is contained. The Scarecrow is revered. You are no longer just a specimen. You are a friend. P.S. Tell Jenna the cork was delicious. Max smiled. He looked out the window, half expecting to see a chrome taco streaking across the sky. He didn't, but he did see a pigeon wearing sunglasses. And somehow, that felt right. The end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.